Hey, hey, infinite beings, welcome along to the infinite me yet again.
Hello.
Here we are, talking all about being infinite and the fact that you don't actually need to go out and find your infiniteness or discover it or awaken it or do any of those things, ascend to it. You're already infinite, and every day we're having a chat about how you can incorporate more of your infiniteness into your life and utilize that power. So I'm Nat. Over there is Mandy. I always get that wrong.
Everybody.
And so yesterday we had a chat about the fact that you don't need a vision board. So I think we busted probably a few myths and a few, I don't know, sort of one of those things, vision boards everybody gets into with personal development and stuff. And we have also done that, but we certainly gave our thoughts now from the infinite side about whether that's actually necessary or not. So if you have a vision board, maybe you want to have a listen to that and just get different ideas about it, how you could utilize it differently. That's a little bit more infinite, and incorporate some of the unknown into your space. Invite that in a little bit more. So today we have no idea what we're talking about because we have the infinite lucky dip that Mandy is about to pull here. So we've got topics that were written in our little bag. We've both contributed to that over the time as little things drop in and go, oh, I'll talk about this. Put them in there. So this is very on the spot, unplanned.
The orange one.
The power of orange is...
everyone is wanting the same thing.
Oh, okay. This came from the other day while we were chatting. All right, I have to get back in the mode of what we were talking about the other day. So this sparked, I couldn't even remember what conversation it was actually that we were discussing it, but I do remember it was quite a strong feeling at the time that we were talking about it. And really it was about the fact that we're all sort of seemingly looking for different things, but ultimately we're all human at the end of the day and we all have our same basic needs. So we are actually all looking for the same thing. Can you remember the context of where this came up? I'm just trying to think.
No, that's what I was trying to think. I can kind of recall you saying it, but I can't think of the context. I think it came out of perhaps a talk we had done that day. Not that I can tell you what that talk was, but I think it came off the back of the talk we did, and then we were chatting a bit more and sort of whether it was a one around, I'm just thinking whether it was the talk we did to do with freedom, like freedom can't be outside of you. I could be wrong with this, but we're talking about freedom can't be outside of you. It has to be an inside thing. And whether it came from that was saying at the end of the day, everybody was like, we're all running around trying to, like, we've got our little egos looking for stuff all the time, but at the end of the day, we're all wanting the same thing. Like we're all after the same thing. The ego wants the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's where it did spark from. And it was talking about the fact that putting up facades, I guess, like particularly now that we've got social media and Instagram and all that sort of stuff, and everybody's sort of doing selfies and everyone looks fantastic. And you were talking yesterday about being on the Gold Coast and all the people there sort of dressed up to the nines. And it's sort of quite interesting that I'm not saying everybody's doing this, but a lot of people are now putting on this facade, I'll say this Instagram facade, and presenting themselves sort of thing as perhaps not what they are, and genuine and authentic. And
yes,
it's sort of like nobody wants to, I know where it came from. We're talking about everybody wants to take a break, but no one wants to admit that they want to take a break from doing stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's right. Okay, now it's going back to me. Yeah, so we were talking about actually sort of having a bit of downtime and giving yourself space to relax and to feel into your creativity more and all that sort of stuff. But we're also go. That but everybody's wanting the same thing, but we've also got this facade going on that we all have to be busy all the time, and nobody can take a break, and everyone needs to work hard. It came from the work hard one. Okay, it's all coming back now. This is the problem when you're just going in the flow and you've written down a topic in the flow, then you're going to try to remember because you're so present, you can't even remember what you spoke about. There you go. That's funny. Yeah, so we were talking about the hard work thing. That's right.
Yes.
And so if you're into hard work, that's definitely was a really good live to actually listen to when we broke down sort of what that actually meant, and maybe reframing the whole idea of hard work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But what the thing that came out of that was there's so many people that are wanting to take a break and relax for a while and slow life down, but we feel like we're on this treadmill and everybody else is like go, go, go as well. So if we're not like that, then we're deemed as lazy or, a bit of a bum or going nowhere or not having a purpose. And all these things come up from, the social world type thing. But everybody's actually wanting to take a break. So if we all just like admitted that that's what we want, then everyone could relax.
Yes.
We can all take a break.
Out of it. Yep. It's funny, I was just talking with, I've got my brother-in-law down today visiting from Melbourne. And as we were driving around today, he was asking about this project, basically, because I haven't really spoken to him since we've started doing this Infinite Me business together, Nat and I. And so he was asking about what it was about and what we're doing. And I sort of said, well, every day we get on and we do a chat at the moment. That's what we're doing, and we're working on a coaching program at the moment. And so I just talked about, we just jump on and we don't really know exactly what we're going to talk about in the moment, but it's just something to do with personal transformation and either something that's coming up for us in the moment or and then I said, well, actually we've now started doing sort of infinite lucky dip that we've been doing and putting topics in and drawing them out in the moment and just intuitively talking about whatever's coming through. And so he said, oh, what sort of things would you talk about? Like, give me an example sort of thing. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I sort of just pulled out one thing. And not even just the concept, like he said, what sort of concepts? And I said, I know the concept of like being present, like everyone talks about being present. And, but do we actually, I said, I know I've really struggled with this one of like what that actually means. Like how do you be present? Like you make it into a doing thing almost like, and so we chatted a bit about that. And so he kind of really got what I was talking about. And then I said about this idea of that whole idea actually of taking some downtime, because he said, I just noticed even coming on the plane here this morning, like everybody's on their phones, while you can still use your phone before you take off, like everybody's on their phone. And then they tell you to, switch your phone into airplane mode. And so everyone's still, doing stuff on their phone, like they've downloaded an app or they're, just on their tablet or something or the laptop. And so he said, I was sort of sitting there going, I really just want to sit here and do nothing, but everyone else is kind of doing stuff. So he said, I picked up the magazine. Like I noticed that I picked up the magazine. I started flicking through the magazine. He's like, but I don't actually really want to read the magazine. I actually just want to sit here and do nothing. So he did eventually put the magazine down, but he said, I actually get what you're saying. Like I really noticed that I felt guilty about just sitting and doing nothing. Like, because he said, I was doing nothing, like even a good thing. I said, well, it's probably one of the best things you can actually do. Like
the best thing.
Do nothing. And so he's like, oh, okay. So like we end up having this big chat about all of that. And so it was just sort of interesting. It ties into this a little bit about that.
So
we do feel guilty for having a nap in the afternoon when our body's actually telling us that we're tired, but we always push through because I can't do that because of some reasoning we make up about, even when you're home on your own, so there's nobody there you judge yourself for like, oh no, that's lazy, or that's I should just push through this and then I'll have the break later on, or whatever we make that mean about ourselves. Like it's just interesting, like what you said, everybody wants the same thing, but we do all have these stories running around what somebody else is going to think about us, like what they're going to make that mean and what we make that mean ultimately about ourselves too. But they're all ego stories. So it's just interesting how we
funny,
get
like
so tied up with them.
When you say you're home by yourself and you still won't do it, and it's sort of like because you've still got, it's almost like voices in your head type thing from the outside world going, oh, you look very lazy when you do that. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll be really lazy if I do that sort of thing. Well, it's like, and I definitely struggled with this when I first got into consciousness stuff, and did very much have a job that was go, go, go sort of thing before I embarked on the journey of consciousness. And then it took me a long time to really not have the guilt around it, sort of thing. So I would still take time out because I would just feel so drained with going through the journey and letting stuff go and that. And I was just like to the point where I really did need to lie down. So I was doing a lot of that. And I think a lot of stuff was processing from the past and just sort of finally taking time to myself, sort of thing, to actually do that and catch up to myself after years and years of running around. But it took a long time to actually finally rest, sort of guilt-free rest, and actually allow the body. And I think that's part of it as well. Like, the body never actually gets proper rest if you're feeling guilty.
Yes.
And so you need to lie down even more, and you need to have more sleep, and it's just sort of like this continuing cycle, and then you feel more guilty. And it's just like, oh, if you'd just taken 20 minutes of guilt-free relaxation for 5 minutes, like for 20 minutes, you'd be fine. The body would have rejuvenated itself, done what it needs to do, and you'd be back up again doing stuff. But because we just have these stories playing out and there's guilt going on, it's just like, okay, you just got to keep doing it then. Like, it's whatever you're repressing type thing, you're just going to keep attracting all the time. So it's just like, oh, more guilt. Okay, here we go again. Like, and it's really funny how many people you talk to just in general conversation, they go, oh my God, particularly kids. Oh my God, I would give anything to have a break, like just to stop for 5 minutes.
Yes.
And it's like, well, why don't you? Like, if that's what your body's telling you need, then do it. Like,
it's funny how we just keep
doing it.
Just think about that whole thing with the judgment. Like, oftentimes we have that judgment on ourselves. I say we take that example of you're on your own, so nobody's around you to kind of say, oh, you shouldn't lay down, but you're telling yourself, I shouldn't lay down, I should keep going, I should push through, or I'm lazy. So whatever those voices are sort of saying to you. But when you kind of think about why you're saying that to yourself, it's usually because of a story that you have running around what somebody else will think about that. So it's not necessarily probably your own judgment of yourself. It's come from like the paradigm that we're brought into, that we should be working all the time, or maybe our parents used to, maybe you used to be tired all the time. They're like, get up, don't be silly, like, you don't need that now, or you won't sleep tonight, or whatever those stories we have. Had people say that all the time. Our mum often sort of dozes off, in the afternoon. I say, why don't you just go and actually have a proper lay down? Like, oh no, it's all right, I'm not sleeping, I'm just like, well, you kind of word.
It's about an hour out. Like,
just go and have a proper lay down and have a rest, like, and rather than this like half sitting up and dozing, and like it's not actually proper rest. And our mum's retired, so it's like, what are you like? What are you trying to
race off and do?
But it's just funny with just sort of think about those stories and how we've created them, but when you're by yourself, we sort of we feel like, oh, it's somebody else that's telling us that, like, oh, I can't do it because my husband will think this, or will mean this, or no, I said that I would get this thing done, so no, I'm just going to push through, I'm just going to I've got to prove to them that I'm going to do this thing, I'm committed, whatever these stories. But then when you think about it, it's like, well, who are we actually talking to? Like, we're the only ones. We're hearing that voice in our head. So like, even if we think it's the voice of somebody else that we're hearing, like maybe we do hear it from the outside at times directly, like someone says that directly to us, but at that time when we're making the judgment, it's usually only ever our own voice that we're listening to and making that judgment from. So it's like, well, who's making the judgment at the end of the day? Like, where is it coming from? Like, there isn't somebody outside of you, it's all coming from inside you. The ego, it's all coming from the ego. So
it's sort of interesting
when
you did dive into it and went, oh, did my partner ever say that to me? Like, it's like, no, they've actually never said that to me. It's like that, somehow or another you got their voice in your head saying, don't lie down. Get up and do something.
And oftentimes that will be perhaps a presumption that we've made because we know their belief around that, or around hard work, and so we make up an assumption like, oh, I better not do that because they won't be happy about that, or it looks like I'm flaky and I said I was going to do it, I was going to commit to this thing, or so it's just it's funny the stories that we do make up around everything when we actually step out of them and kind of just go, well, who's what voice is that? Where's that coming from? Like, and who's actually saying it? Like, I'm hearing it in my head. So like, who's actually, it's not coming from them. It's actually coming from me. Like my ego is kind of, now imitating that person and making me think it's coming from outside of me. But the whole time we have the choice around whether to listen to that voice or not. Like,
it's interesting how different cultures have taken on different perspectives around that. And I know we're focusing at the moment on having a rest, because that's where it came from the other day, from the hard work conversation. But this goes for anything, you know, where we've got other people's voices in our heads type thing telling us to do certain things. But it is interesting how different cultures have taken on different perspectives of this as well, and it works perfectly for that culture. You know, so in Europe, in a lot of the Spanish-speaking countries and stuff, where they do take siestas, and that's still very much a thing. You know, you can't even get banks open or shops open, or the whole place just literally closes down. Even in Paris, it's like, oh my God, like the middle of a city. You've actually got places that are all closed. You can't get anything between sort of, I don't even know what the times are, maybe 2 and 5 or something. But it's a decent amount of time we go out. It's just dead on the street. It's like, oh my God, this is like the middle of the city. But it sort of works for them, and like, because it's their culture, nobody questions it. And it's like everybody's so much more laid back, so much more relaxed and friendly, and because they've all had time out, sort of thing. Like they've come back into themselves, into their family, into what is, you know, important to them, and it all just still functions really well, if not better than, you know, like go of some of the other countries of, you know, the US and Australia and New Zealand, I guess, to some degree. Like so many other countries have taken on this whole perspective of you've just got to keep on pushing type thing until you basically fall over and then get sick and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's just so interesting if we'd actually just wind it back a little bit. And you were saying the other day about being in Tasmania is a lot, they've pulled the throttle back a little bit on the whole
slower pace of life.
The whole state there is a little bit slower pace. And, you know, oftentimes we talk about the country, the rural areas, as opposed to the city areas, and I totally get that sort of thing. Obviously the country areas are, and the rural areas are definitely a lot slower. But it's sort of like the city go type thing is just, I don't know, it just seems really foreign these days, and seems almost like looking from the outside going, why on earth would you do that? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
It's just that nobody really wants to be doing it. Kind of, we've all just keep thinking we've got to keep doing it, and people are sort of getting to work earlier these days and working later, and it's like, if anything, it seems to be going the other way in many instances. So even in
places like Japan and stuff like that, where they're actually working 6 days a week, you know, they're working on Saturday as well, and super long hours and stuff. And I guess there's just that economic pressure that everybody's feeling, like the companies are feeling, as their expenses are going up, and so they've obviously just got to get more productive, sort of thing, and be smarter about the way they have their workers working. So it is that pressure. And I do remember, I think I brought this up the other day, and I think it was our sister-in-law saying, which they're from New York, it's like, oh, you wouldn't dare take 2 weeks back to back. Like, if you had 2 weeks holiday, you wouldn't take both of them together. Probably not for her, but for some people, like, you would come back to, and there'd be no job left because they would have filled that position, because you've like dared to take 2 weeks off. It's like, God, like, so at least Australia's a little bit, and New Zealand's a bit better than that. But it's like, oh my goodness, like, that's really full on. So Judy just wrote, and if the story is strong, some sort of disruption will happen to reiterate the belief. True. Etc. So if you're trying to take a
rest,
a break,
it's usually when someone will call you because you're feeling guilty. It's very true.
No one ever rings you, but it'll ring when you're trying to have a lie down.
It's very true.
Always create around our beliefs. Easy to see what our beliefs are.
I was even thinking about this whole hard work concept because, as I said, the conversation kind of evolved into this earlier today when I was chatting with my brother-in-law as well, and he was talking about his company is starting to bring in a lot more mindfulness stuff as well now too. So they're really starting to focus on that, and they've had some people come in to kind of help them with incorporating mindfulness techniques and addressing that and what that would look like for the company. And so I said, yeah, well, lots of companies are obviously looking into this these days, because there's so much research now that is supporting, you know, how beneficial this is for everybody, like the employees and the company as a whole. So this whole concept of working harder all the time and longer hours, and it actually does the opposite in terms of productivity and even staff morale, and people feeling like they're actually bringing something of value to their work if they're feeling overworked all the time and not really sort of almost taken advantage of. It feels like sometimes, you know, you're on a salary, but you just get to keep working extra long hours, but don't get paid anything extra. So that happens quite a lot as well. So I think just this whole movement towards mindfulness and consciousness in the workplace in general is sort of showing that, okay, we don't have to work longer hours. We can actually be more productive with the time we show up, when people feel valued and they can bring their differences to the table, and they feel, and as in the words of my brother-in-law is saying, you feel like you can be more authentic in yourself when you show up. So even the conversations you get to have, like he's in quite a high management level, and he's saying, but even if I want to have a chat with my big manager, he said, you know, I'm actually a little bit bored with my role at the moment. Like, I'm not feeling really challenged by it anymore. And but I don't really want to just go to him and say I'm bored with my position. So he said, but I feel like I can have that conversation a bit easier now, because we are sort of bringing this type of thing into the workplace, and so I can address this a bit more now, and I know that it will be heard. And so I thought, oh, that's really cool. Like, there is this shift towards that, and that's another thing that everybody wants. This, at the end of the day, everybody wants their voice to be heard, and they want to feel like they're bringing something of value to their work. And people, you know, we aren't just all showing up for paychecks at the end of the day. Like, we are doing it because we feel like we want to bring some kind of purpose to the world, and bring our skills to the world, and people hear our voice and our ideas and all that kind of stuff. But if it does literally feel like it's just a paycheck because that's how you're being treated, it's like, you don't want to hear your ideas or your voices, just do the work. And then that's when the morale does start to go down and productivity drops, and everybody does want the break because they're just feeling like they need it to actually do something for themselves. They're not they're not getting anything from what they're putting in at their workplace, if you put it that way. So
yeah, it's interesting, like the big companies now, like and I think Google was one of the first ones to really lead the way in this, like in terms of bringing that play into the workplace, you know, like slippery slides and the free food and just all the different things that they incorporate, the pods where you can go for a sleep and you know, have a rest or chill out and, you know, really sit and be creative in some form or another type thing. The whole workplace is now geared towards play, and I'm sure everybody's seen videos of all the cool stuff at Google. But so many of them are actually doing that now, you know, through Silicon Valley and now spreading beyond, like even simple workplaces like in Australia sort of thing now actually have, you know, mindfulness and things like that. And it's like it's really interesting in terms of everything shifting. And I guess this is what everybody's been wanting. Finally, the voice is being heard type thing, in terms of, well, yeah, we have to come to work every day. We get that. I like to get our paycheck and pay for our life, but we all would like to be playing and being more creative and enjoying ourselves. You know, so finally, you know, enough of that has been heard, where things are actually shifting finally. You know, rather than sort of just sitting there going, it'd be really nice if I actually enjoyed my work a bit more and things were a bit more flowing. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But I guess the question sort of then raises, like, why do we feel we don't speak up, sort of thing? Like, in terms of, if we did feel like a break, why are we following the masses or the social norm or the, you know, the thought processes of the masses type thing, in terms of I really do want this, but if I just had the guts to actually speak up, then I would probably find a lot of supporters, you know, like that also want this as well. But it's sort of like, why does it take so much for somebody to actually speak out against the social norms? Like, to actually say what they want. So
I think we fear the consequences, don't we? Like, we've made up stories about what we think is going to happen, or the ego has, and they're always based on, the things we've spoken about in videos a lot earlier, about the things that the ego is always seeking for outside of itself. So we don't want to lose the security of our job. Like, we think our job will be at risk if we speak up. People won't like us anymore. We'll be kind of, people think we're like a bit of a whistleblower or something, and then they'll sort of isolate us, or we won't have that connection anymore with our team, or so all this, whatever the story is, like, that we think, and that may happen. That's the thing. They're all potential outcomes that could happen, but maybe you're not meant to be in that workplace if that's the outcome of you speaking up and raising your voice and speaking your truth as well. So I think we often just feel scared to take that leap of what projected outcome we think is going to happen. Whether that will happen or it didn't happen, we won't know, because we don't speak up, and whatever happens is perfect anyway. It's everything that happens to us is happening for a reason. Like, it's there in our script for whatever reason, to wake us up to something else, so we can never actually ever get it wrong anyway. But we feel like, it's always coming from that ego space. The little us kind of always feels like, oh, I can't make a mistake, or this will happen, or the judgments we have around it and the stories we have running. Whereas the infinite part of us is just speak up. Like, that's all. If that's what's moving through you, that's the only thing you need to do. Like, whatever happens outside of that is actually outside of your control anyway. So it's and we don't know how that's meant to unfold. Maybe you're meant to lose your job because then you're going to meet somebody the next day that's going to offer you the most perfect role ever, but you'll never know because you didn't speak up. So it's that kind of a thing that plays out. So yes.
Yeah, Jasmine's just joined us, and she said she had a situation where she didn't speak her truth today, and she's investigating why. So maybe this will help this whole conversation. Good to have you.
I saw your comments, just before, Jasmine, on the video. I hadn't had a chance to go back and comment.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And what a great situation to not have spoken your truth, and now to actually have the opportunity to investigate a little bit more about why that's the case, what fear came up for you to stop you from doing that. But I guess at the end of the day, any of it is to do with the ego. They're all ego stories that we have playing out in our head. And the premise of the ego is always, I am not enough. And it's always seeking love, but it's seeking love in the outside world. Yes. So, and it does that in all its different forms, like we've talked about in earlier sessions. Acknowledgement, recognition. I'm going to forget them all. There's 5 of them. What are the others?
We've got security, recognition, appreciation, approval, and there's another A one I was forgetting too. It's not acknowledgement, because acknowledgement is like approval, because I got that wrong in the first place when I was introducing them.
I can't remember them now. But anyway, you get the gist. They're all pretty similar to each other.
Looking for it outside of us, let's put that way.
Yeah, and that's it. And so there's always the risk, if you are going to speak up against the norm type thing and go, you know what, actually, I'm going to take some time out. And that will upset the apple cart. And somehow or another, the ego associates that with not having love. Yeah. So that you won't be accepted. So as soon as you're not accepted, or your decision is not accepted, or your idea is not accepted, then you feel like love has been taken away from you. Like, and we've all felt that. And maybe that happened as kids, sort of thing, like where your mum and dad sort of said, oh, no, you can't do that. Like, I don't really agree with that type thing. Like, oh, so we feel really sad. Yeah. So we still carry that, like, as ridiculous as it actually sounds. It's like, well, who really cares whether you agree with it or not? That's what I'm doing. So it's sort of, the more you stand in your power, the less these sorts of things actually have an effect on you. But if you're feeling really vulnerable, or you're just not there yet, and it's like, it does affect you for sure. Like, it's particularly for somebody really close to you that you put a lot of, maybe a bit of power into, but also just somebody that represents love to you. It might be your partner or your family, or your family members. Yes. If you're going against something that seems like the norm, like I know in our family, our mum has been much around what everybody else is doing. It's like, oh, they won't accept that. I was like, well, we're not sure who they are all the time, but
why we're so concerned about those other people.
They other people, so Jasmine just said recognition, appreciation, security, acceptance, and approval. Thank you.
I was thinking appreciation came to me as you were talking, and I was going to say it next too, but that's cool. Thanks for that. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. So Yeah, so these are all the things that the ego is looking for. So anytime you step outside of the norms, then your ego is going to perceive one of those things as being threatened.
Yes. Yeah.
So
it's always looking for love, but this is the form that the love comes in. It thinks that love comes in those forms of needing it from outside of us all the time, whereas that's not actually what love means, from that universal unconditional love perspective. To the ego, it's always looking for love outside of itself, and it comes in those 5 forms: recognition, appreciation, security, acceptance, and approval.
Yeah, and speaking up and speaking your truth, you always have the possibility of one of those things being taken away, and that's what's so frightening to us before we say it. And then, always, if it comes from the heart and it's actually true for you to actually speak those words, then they'll always be accepted. That's the funny thing. That's the irony of the whole thing. And everyone will experience that, where you actually have finally had the guts to speak your truth, and everyone goes, okay. And the more certain you are about that, the less reaction you have. Some people just have no reaction whatsoever. It's like, okay, cool. And it's like, oh, okay, that went better than I thought.
Yes. And even if there is a reaction outside, because sometimes there still will be, for sure. So we always just know that whatever anybody says to us on the outside is always about themselves, and it's the same with us too. Like when we say something to somebody else in anger or judgment or whatever else, it's always about ourselves. Like it's always about our story, because we're the only ones that are hearing our story anyway. So it's like it's always about us. And even if we're offering advice to somebody else, it's usually advice that we need to hear. we heard, like when we were going through that or something like. So everything's always about us. Focus on ourselves, and it's hard in the moment, but sometimes when somebody's really laying something on you that's not easy to hear, or it's someone that you have perceived to get a lot of love from in the past, and now it doesn't come across as that. When you tell them, you share something with them that is maybe really hard to share, or it's going to challenge them, challenge their values, or
change part of their reality.
This is thinking, changing.
So it's going to, if you know that what you're going to say is actually going to influence their reality in some way, then that's different.
And that's what they react at. That's the ego will react out of that and sort of lash back with whatever it's going to say to you. And but the more we can stay in that space of knowing, no, this is actually just true for me, and I'm actually saying this for me. Like it's not about the other person or what they're going to say, or to appease their ego, or to nothing ever stays the same. I was going to say, like, keeping the status quo. It's just like nothing ever stays the same anywhere. It's kind of it always, I remember having that conversation with our parents too, around they were commenting something to do with like, oh, there's so many people divorcing these days. Like our parents have been married for 50 odd years or something. Wouldn't necessarily it's always happy something. That's the thing. But there is this belief that runs behind that no, we're Catholic, and you don't do that. You stay together regardless. It doesn't matter if you're not happy, or not saying that they're not happy. Ultimately, I'm not saying that at all. But there's probably been times throughout their marriage that I would definitely have said they would have been better off splitting up rather than staying together. Like it's kind of, but it was always done from this, no, we have to stay together because this is what the church has told us and this is what we believe, and probably had some thoughts around what might happen if you in terms of be judged by God, or whatever the thoughts were that were going to be around that. But they were commenting one time there about people who are divorcing, and I said, I don't think it's people are divorcing. Yes, okay, it looks like numbers wise there's more people divorcing, but it's only because it's more acceptable these days. There were so many people would have left marriages back 50 years ago if they thought it was acceptable in society to do so. And it's only because we're moving on in consciousness and we're allowing people to just live their life and do what they actually want to do and makes them happy, that now it looks like, oh, suddenly all these people are divorcing. And it's just like, no, divorce has always been there, just like affairs have always been there, just like everything's always been there, but it's just been under the surface. And the more that consciousness is expanding, where we see it, we all feel more free now to be ourselves. And so now all these things are starting to come out. So things like gay marriage are coming into, more acceptance and all this type of stuff. So it's not that it was never not there. It's always been there. It's just been hidden. And
I think people are speaking up more now too against the masses and just going, you know what, I'm just going to do what makes me happy. Right. And the more conscious you are, the more you're willing to stand in your power of that and just go, I'm not compromising anymore. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not happy, I'm out of there. Like,
yes.
I will go and just keep moving.
And just yes, that's just but also honoring that whole thing with the change, like that nothing stands still. To that point I was saying to my parents about divorces and things, is just like relationships shift over the years. If you've been with somebody for 30 years, like you've both changed dramatically in 30 years. Like it's kind of, you
30
can't,
years is a long
not
time.
the same people anymore, and your values could have completely shifted in that time frame too if you weren't being honest with yourself, like, you know, earlier on in your life, and which most of us probably aren't. We don't really truly know ourselves.
Yep.
And so as you go through life, you have experiences and you start to learn something more about yourself, and you let habits go, and, you know, hopefully we start to bring some more awareness to our ego patterns, and we start to drop those more and more, and we start to be more of ourselves. But if you're with somebody that doesn't want to go down that path, and they're just really adamant that no, this is how life is, then you start to just drift apart, and there's nothing actually wrong with that. It's just time to move on. Like that's all it is. But we somehow make up a big story that's wrong, that we need to all stay the same and we need to stay together because that's what we said we're going to do. And it's just like, why? Like I don't get that at all. Like it's just nothing in life ever stays the same. Like, so nature is constantly changing, so why would we think that we're different? Like it just doesn't even make
why would we not be a part of that system?
So even the whole thing around hard work that we talked about earlier and taking a break, like why could that whole paradigm not shift too? Like, okay, we went through the Industrial Revolution, and probably that's where the hard work concept came from. I don't know, like it's I've just always known about that hard work concept sort of thing, so I don't know where it's come from, but it seems to be like, well, maybe it's time to evolve that whole paradigm as well. Like maybe that doesn't actually work anymore, and
maybe it's not fitting anymore.
Why do we still keep trying to fit into it when our bodies are telling us differently? Consciousness is expanding and showing us different ways of relating and getting things done now, but we're still trying to stick to this old model that doesn't actually seem to work for anybody. So coming back to that point of everyone who wants the same thing, everybody's wanting to kind of evolve and change, just be accepted for who they are. Like at the end of the day, that's all anybody wants, is just to be themselves, show up and be themselves.
Be loved for that unconditional love, regardless of how they show up.
Yes. So that's all outside of the ego. Like that's just the infinite feeling that we all have, is that we just want to show up and be ourselves and be able to bring that feeling through regardless. And it's not about looking for acceptance and approval when it's coming from that space. It's definitely not. You might still get it from the outside, but it's not the driving force anymore. It starts to shift.
Totally agree. Jody just said, yes, it's definitely helpful being reminded of the different versions of love. Especially when it's focused internally. Sample, trying the question, do I approve of myself? Do I appreciate myself?
Shifting it around, so not looking at the outside.
It's like you're the only one that's got to love you at the end of the day. Like you need the approval. So if you're seeking approval from someone else or appreciation, it's like you're actually wanting it to give it to yourself. You're looking for the outside, you're not doing it yourself. 100%. It's a really good reminder, actually, that that's why we're doing it in the first place.
Yes.
Jasmine said, I had a feeling that what stopped me speaking my truth was a total illusion, and that if I had it, it would actually have been well received, built new bridges, and like you say, ultimately been right for me. We live in my lives, don't we?
I was going to say those instances all serve, but like, as you would know, Jasmine, sort of thing, like you've had that awareness now, so it's kind of like, that's really cool to have that awareness too, that, oh wow, like if I had said that, this might have happened, like the outcome that I was thinking would have actually turned out that way. And perhaps there's a chance to go back and have that conversation with that person, I don't know. But even if there isn't, it's like just an awareness now you have, that the next time you go into a situation like that, you'll be more likely to listen to that inner feeling and follow that through now, because you've had like a direct experience now of like, oh, I could have said that and it would have actually been okay, sort of thing, like trusting yourself a lot more.
Yes. Oh yes, to turning it back on to myself.
Yes.
Definitely. I guess as you move along your journey, like that's certainly what I've noticed, that you just have more certainty in yourself, and you just have more guts then to do what you feel like doing, speaking your truth, like regardless of how people are showing up for you.
It's about the freedom that you feel too, because if we think about that, everything is about us at the end of the day, and it, you know, the ego is going to hear that as, oh, that's selfish, but that's the ego hearing it, not the true part of you. It's everything is about us at the end of the day, because if there is one infinite consciousness, then there is only one infinite consciousness. That's it. Like there's nothing else outside of that. So it is always about you when you're knowing yourself as that infinite feeling. There is nothing else. So it's kind of like, well, it's about that freedom of being able to express whatever is coming through you. So, okay, put it into the human game, and yes, there's other characters that we interact with, and we have these hard conversations with people that we have relationships with, and so it can feel really hard to hear that back from the other person. But the more we kind of put ourselves into the space of not knowing that, well, we've put them into our story for some reason anyway, and it's only the ego that's hearing it with the judgment and the harshness too, then it does help to kind of pull your power back out of that and just see it for what it is. And it does get easier to have the conversation, but it is ultimately about the freedom that you feel from moving through that for yourself. Like that's all it's about at the end of the day, is taking your power out of those stories and those illusions, and nobody can control you outside of you unless you're giving your power to them. So we only feel hurt by somebody when we've given them some kind of power over us. Put them above us in some way. So they can only hurt you by when you feel that you're less than that person, which is only an ego illusion at the end of the day. So, and say at the end of the day, as if it's an easy thing to walk away from, it isn't. I acknowledge that it's a process to do too. But the more we keep telling ourselves the truth of it in these situations that show up, like what Jasmine shared, like about, I could have maybe spoken my truth. It's like the more we keep seeing that and doing it and moving through on the true feeling, it's like it gets easier and easier, and we start to know ourselves more as that feeling rather than the separate person.
And really, at the end of the day, everyone is only ever your reflection anyway. There is only one consciousness, as you say. So people can only reflect back what's going on for you internally. So if people are questioning you, you've decided to make a stand on something that goes against the norm, and somebody questions you about that, it's because you're actually questioning yourself still about it, and that you don't have the certainty. So that sort of questioning process from somebody else actually helps you find your certainty, because if you push somebody enough with questions and stuff like that, what happens? They stand up and go, no, actually, no, this is my decision. I'm going to stick with this. And so you can only push people so far, and they'll only push you so far, where you finally get to a breaking point and go, you know what? No, I'm actually, this is my decision. I'm going to stick with this. And so I guess that outside questioning is just helping you find your inner certainty over and over again. And because if you're 100% certain about your decision on something, then no one will question it. That's the thing. You'll find, and you will have seen this or experienced this yourself, where somebody is so certain about what they're doing that you wouldn't even dare question them. It's like, whoa, yep, if that's what you're doing, that's fantastic. No matter what they're doing, no matter how out there it might be, we don't question it. We just sort of accept it, strangely accept it. So it's,
and if everything is happening for us at the end of the day, then even that supposed questioning from the outside of us is showing us an area that we're probably still got, even if it's like 5%, uncertainty still on something. How can you shift that around and kind of go, wow, okay, why is that person asking me that question? Where am I still not decided on that thing or not happy with that? So rather than kind of going, oh, you shouldn't have said that to me, and get really worked up about that person saying that thing to them, and but turn it around more to yourself to see where it's actually you saying it to you. It's like, oh wow, how would you hear it differently if you kept seeing it as you talking to you, not somebody else outside of you?
That's an interesting exercise. Maybe we should all try that today. It's like whenever you're having a conversation with somebody outside of you today, just go, oh, it's me talking to me. That's really interesting. So what am I saying to me? You right?
Dog. The dog was whinging all the time. I was to my husband to say, can you come and get the dog? But he just opened the door, so that's good. There you go.
Instant manifestation.
No, even have to text.
But it's you standing in your truth, doing what you feel to do in every moment, regardless of how the outside world is showing up. Just liberates everybody else. Finally gives them permission. like we talked about the other day with permission.
Yeah.
Not that anyone needs permission, but sometimes we feel like we do. It's like you give permission to everybody else to relax, enjoy their life a bit more, take some breaks when they need it, do things that are different. Like you said, things are changing. Things are not working like they used to. So we have to all change. And as conscious beings, really sort of embracing our infiniteness now, we lead the way. That's our responsibility as doing more of this work is to lead the way on that and to have the guts to actually live our truth in every moment. And we'll fall down definitely when we don't do that. But all we can do is our best and see the times that we don't speak our truth or stand in our power.
Yes.
And go, okay, next time I will. Like next time I have an opportunity. So Jasmine said, yes, I think this has been a powerful opportunity to learn a deeper truth in this pattern. Also think we do have a chance to continue this conversation that actually with this recognition it will make the conversation even more powerful. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's good. It's good when you can go back and revisit. Yes. Other shit.
Wondering what the sound was, which is quite funny. She's holding a puppy as well.
Yes, that's her little dog Rice Ball. He's so adorable. So
Rice Ball. And I'll take a rest or a nap whenever I feel to from now on. I thought you already did that.
Just waiting for your approval now.
You have my approval, my blessing. There you go. Off you go. I'll have a little later. That's funny.
It is so silly when you think about that. We don't give ourselves those things that would actually benefit us the most. So self-care kind of thing about just laying down for 20 minutes if our body is actually screaming at us to slow down, but we push through it. It's just like, why are we not letting that in for like, what's that about kind of thing? So if that's what's moving through us, like, how do we not know that 20-minute nap is going to lead to more clarity on a solution for a problem rather than pushing through? And then
often it is like, that's why you feel tired, is because your ego is getting tired because something's trying to come through. Like I've often noticed that.
I even had that, even for example of that last night after we did our chat. Was quite late last night for me by the time I got off, and I was actually really tired, and I thought I'll write out the summary now because I was getting a little bit behind on a couple of them because I've been traveling, and so I thought I'll write it up, and it took me like 3 times as long to write because I was just tired. I was really tired, and I was just like, I'll do it in the morning. I was like, no, I'm going to do it now. And I was quite aware I was pushing through it. So there was an awareness that I was pushing through it, but I just took way longer than it had to be. And it's just like, okay, I could have just done this in the morning probably and knocked it out in 20 minutes or something. It took for it to do. I couldn't get the words to kind of flow right. The sentences just weren't making sense. And I'm just like, why am I doing this now?
Always said, me too. I'm going to nap every day now. Good for you. Go, girl. Everybody has permission. We're starting a revolution. Everyone has permission to have naps whenever they feel like it. Woo! Just like the old days when we were kids.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
I know. That's why kids fall asleep all of a sudden. They go, and they wait. Totally out of it.
Yes.
It's the same. True. Nap love. Yeah, Jasmine. Totally. I love it. I'm a big fan of the nap.
Moral of the story: everybody's wanting the same thing. A nap.
Everyone wants naps. Yeah, we finally found our flow in this. We took a bit to get going on this conversation because I couldn't remember what the context was. That was quite funny. We do actually sort of, things spark as we have these conversations, and then we quickly write them down and go, oh, that'd be a really good topic. But then sometimes when we pull them out, it's like, oh, what was that in context to again? Like, that's what today was about.
Yes.
That's good. I remember what we were talking about.
Forces you to be in the present moment to kind of just see what's going to come through, I suppose, as well.
Totally. So I was a bit uncomfortable at first. It's like, oh, God, like, what are we going to talk about? I felt it. Yeah. Took me a bit to settle in. That's hilarious. Oh, Louise said, Sharon says she's napping right now.
Why is she not watching us? That's not allowed. She should be up watching.
Only like bloody 9 o'clock in the morning. She's already having a nap. Blimey.
It's It's okay to have a nap anytime you want, except when we're doing our live videos. So
exactly. We'll have no napping during our live. Napping is banned. Oh, Vicky's in the house. Hello, Vicky.
Hello.
Hello. We're talking about napping. Everybody has permission to nap whenever they feel like it.
Yes.
Who cares what anyone else thinks?
And you're in New Zealand too, so you're a bit later. You're quite okay to go and have a nap if you want to.
You can go nap now. Yeah.
If you don't know what we're talking about, you have to watch the whole video.
You'll be thinking, what on earth? What drugs are we on?
Yes.
Very cool.
Got there in the end.
We did. I think we managed to find our flow again.
Yes.
Vicky said she only naps if she needs it. Of course.
Yep, but that's all it's about, isn't it? If you don't need it, don't do it. Yep. Following what's true.
Hate wasting days. Oh, that's interesting. Hate wasting days.
Yeah, I suppose it's only if it does feel true for us, isn't it? Like if your body feels tired, sometimes all you got to do is take out 15 minutes. Like we think it's got to take out the whole afternoon because we have a nap, but we just need to have a little. Sometimes I even just need to stretch my eyes. Like it sounds weird, but like you get sort of dry eyes if you're sitting in front of the computer. Sometimes you just got to close your eyes and sort of look in all the directions, and that's sometimes enough just to relax your eyes enough. And you think, oh, I actually feel like 10,000 times better now just doing that. Like, or close your eyes for 2 minutes and not even sleeping, but just like resting your eyes and. Suddenly, so yeah, whatever that looks like too, and it's not even about napping at the end of the day. It was just more about the concept of feeling guilty, letting out. Yeah, we make ourselves feel guilty for doing things that are ultimately self-care at the end of the day. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it can just be a very quick little moment.
Yes,
very cool. All right, well there you go, everyone. Go and take a nap. Have a little relax after this big session.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Jasmine did say that. I think I'll need a big nap after this chat realization. Unfortunately, bedtime is not far. There you go.
Very good.
Very cool, Jasmine. Well done today. That's good realizations.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see everybody again tomorrow.
Yes. Thanks for joining.
All right. Bye. Sleep infinitely now.